How do we put the right message in front of the right people at the right time? That's the big question, and this podcast answers it. Welcome to Freaky Smart Marketing with David Olson. All right, well, awesome. Glad to be back for another episode of Freaky Smart Marketing Podcast, the place to be if you want to learn how to put the right message in front of the right people at the right time and get the results you've always wanted. So what are we talking about today? Today in this episode, we're talking about how to create your attractive character. Now, by attractive character, I'm not talking about how good you look or, posing for Instagram or any of that stuff. I mean, if you look at me, I'm really not very attractive. A little overweight, out of shape, not looking the best. But what I mean by attractive character is it refers to your ability to attract a following. Your attractive character is what makes people really want to get to know you, to follow you, and to learn from you. Now, keep in mind, Frank Kern is an absolute great marketer if you haven't heard of him before, but please look him up. Frank Kern said that there's 3 reasons why people don't buy from you. Number 1, they don't believe in you, the person selling it. Number 2, they don't believe in themselves that they can get the same results that you did. And number 3, they just don't want it. And there's really nothing you can do about number 3. But number 1 and number 2, you can do something about that. And believing in you as a person selling, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about creating the attractive character. Creating a person that people will follow, that they'll believe in, that they'll know, like, and trust and want to do business with. So Russell Brunson and his book, .com Secrets, and now Russell's probably one of the greatest marketers on the planet today. He's pretty young, younger than I am, but he is outstanding. I mean, there's a great article in Forbes earlier this year about how he took his company, ClickFunnels, from 0 to over 300 million in 3 years with no venture capital. So I highly suggest you look up that article if you have a chance. Anyway, Russell said, the key to building your attractive character is to understand that people will follow you because you have completed the journey that they're on right now, and they want the same results you've already achieved. So they will follow you because they want the results that you achieve, but they want it in a way that is appealing to them, that they like. They want to feel like it's their journey and just not some scam. People don't want to be sold to. They have a natural aversion to being sold to. So let's look at 4 elements of attractive character of an attractive character. Number 1. An attractive character needs a backstory. So this is about where we share only important elements of our backstory, and think of why you're sharing it. Will it have an impact on your target audience? Will sharing this particular part of your story, what will it do for your audience? Will it help to get your audience into the right emotional state? Now, that's a really key point. In order to make a buying decision, all buying decisions are emotional in nature. Then after we make that decision, we then rationalize it with logic. And we look at it and say, oh, well, yeah, that was a really great thing because, but in reality, we did it because we wanted to. We had an emotional reaction. And we have to, the point of our marketing and sales is to get people into that right emotional state so that they will be able to make a buying decision. And we create that emotional state by sharing our backstory with them. We wanted to, in bigger context, we can call it the hero's journey, which I'll go into greater detail later. But basically, it's a story. There's a hero. They want to accomplish a task. There's some big conflict that prevents them from accomplishing that task. They have to overcome that. They later have success, and they either change inwardly or outwardly. So we're going to dedicate a lot to that later on. But then, maybe as you're sharing your backstory, maybe you're revealing a specific aspect of your pain that your ideal customer can relate to, or maybe you're revealing part of your life that led you to get involved with your current offer or whatever it is you're doing right now. Number two, the second element of an attractive character is parables. Now, a parable is a story. It's a story that's relatable. So you can take stories from your life or your business and relate them to your current business or offer. But here's the deal. You can't make up these stories. These stories, you can only share true stories. But they don't necessarily have to be your stories. They can be other people's stories, but they need to be true stories, or else, it just, people have just an ingrained radar. They will sense when it's not true, and that's just not appropriate for that to be happening. Number three, the third element. So you need to have character flaws. Now, you should share your character flaws, your mistakes, your lessons, your challenges, how you learned and grew from them. Look, we all make mistakes and no one's perfect, especially when we're learning something new. So you can use those mistakes and those character flaws or imperfections to your advantage. When you share those mistakes, you're going to allow your audience to peek inside the real you. And as a result, they'll resonate more with you. I call it sincerity. I've been asked many times, what are the number one traits that a salesman needs? And they need, in my opinion, they need both empathy and sincerity. Gone are the days of those guys holding a big wad of cash in their hand and standing in front of a mansion with a super sports car. People see right through that crap now. Being sincere, letting down your guard and say, you know what? Hey, I'm just like you. I make mistakes. As a matter of fact, one of the most powerful things you can say in a sales presentation is, you know what? I've been there before too. I know exactly how you feel. And that's why I've decided to do this. And that's actually very powerful because it shows an emotional connection with your audience that, you've been in the same place that they've been in, and that led you to this decision. And so you're leading them down the line. Okay, for the fourth element of an attractive character is polarity. Now, this is actually a very powerful element in personal branding. I don't particularly care for him, but think about Howard Stern and how he has created his brand. People either love him or hate him. There's not really an in-between with him. You can take a similar approach with your attractive character. Just know that you will likely get some haters along the way, and some people will love your message. Hopefully, a lot more will love your message than hate you. But think about every big leader in history, from Jesus Christ to Napoleon to Hitler. I mean, some people just absolutely love Jesus, and there's millions of his followers today, while other people hated him. They crucified him. Same thing with Hitler. His close followers loved him. Other people hated him, and for good reason, because he created this polarity. Every successful leader in history creates polarity. So if you're trying to appease everyone, you're going to end up appeasing no one. And that's a problem. You can't be this middle of the ground trying to be everything to anyone. I worked with a group of people who that's what they tried to do all the time. They were always trying to, if one person complained, we had to change a whole marketing campaign. If one person didn't like something, we got one negative comment, everything would have to change. And that's just not the way it should be. There should be polarity. Some people, you should really be repulsing those people who are not your ideal customers, and you should be attracting your ideal customers. And that way you're part of your segmenting your audience, and you're weeding out the wheat from the chaff. So you need that polarity there. So those four elements, backstory, parables, character flaws, and polarity, those elements combine to help your audience know, like, and trust you. And why is that important? Because we prefer to do business with people that we know, like, and trust. It's just a simple fact. So how can we, besides those four elements, what else can we do to help build our attractive character? Well, one thing we can do is use storylines. So consider using specific storylines as a way to distinguish yourself from your competition and attract a larger or more devout audience. So here's 4 different storylines you can practice with. Number 1, loss and redemption. Something like, I lost this and struggled, but then I found my solution, and here's what happened. Like, hey, it's like the phoenix rising above the ashes. I was really struggling. I was losing everything. I was about to lose my home, but then I tried this new thing, and now I'm doing really well. My wife's happy. My children are happy. Something like that. The loss and redemption storyline. Us versus them. You can create polarity by drawing a line in the sand between you and your competitors. Don't be sucked in by all those other gurus, false hype. Stuff like that is what you can say. It's us versus them, good guys versus bad guys. Number 3, before and after. I used to have no leads or sales, but then I found, and now I have more leads, sales, and commissions too. That's just an example line. A word about before and after. If you are doing Facebook ads and you're in some kind of business where you show pictures of before and after, keep in mind that is against the terms of service. I run up against this all the time. I do some work in the self-help and in the dieting space for clients. And you can't do before and after pictures, but you can use this line, the storyline, very effectively. Just want to throw that in, just a little FYI for you. Okay, number 4, third-person testimonials. Now, I really shouldn't have to say anything about this, but I'm going to because I find it all the time. Have someone else share the results that they've had using your product or services. Don't go on there and talk about how great you are, how wonderful you are, how everyone loves you. That just does not fly. I mean, no one wants to listen to a blowhard like that. It's so much better to have someone else talk about how great you are and the results they got from your product. Now, that doesn't mean you can't coach them. So when you're trying to get a new client or something, or you have past clients, you can sit down with them and say, hey, would you help me out with this? And you can just ask them these questions. Say, hey, what were you really struggling with? Okay, and let them answer, and then say, well, and what did you do to overcome that? Okay, and then they answer it, and they say, and now what does your life look like? And then they answer that. And that's a perfect format. What were you struggling with? What did you do to solve it? And what does your life look like now? And then they can give their name and your name and say, hey, it was all because of this program. But do it in that order, and that's a very effective way to get good testimonials from your past clients or people who have used your products or services. Okay, moving on. So the 4 types of attractive characters. So we have, 4 types. The leader, the adventurer or crusader, the reporter or evangelist, and the reluctant hero. So let's look at the leader first. Now, the leader, it's usually assumed by people whose goal is to be leaders. It's people who have already made it, in quotes there. They have made it. They've achieved the desired end result, and now they're going to show the rest of us how to do it. They're going to lift other people up to where they are. So then we have the adventurer or the crusader. Now, this is usually someone who's really curious, but they don't have all the answers. They don't know it all yet. And typically, they invite their followers to join them on some kind of adventure or journey where they're searching for the truth or searching for the right answers. It's really evident when someone's trying to use the adventurer, the crusader persona in their marketing, because they usually come join me, or join our adventure, join our experience. Join is a key word there. They could also be like crusaders who are looking to right some kind of perceived wrong, whether it's in society or in a market. There's a perceived wrong, and they're going to go out there and they're going to fix this wrong, and they're inviting you along on their crusade to fix this perceived wrong. Okay, number 3, the reporter or the evangelist. Now, this is where most people fall into the reporter class. They haven't made it yet. They're obviously working towards that goal, and they're going out and they're trying things, they're testing things, and they're coming back to their audience and reporting on their progress. It's actually very similar to the adventurer, but they're kind of they're taking this idea of being a reporter or journalist and saying, hey, we're going to go out and do these things. We're going to be totally unbiased, and we're going to objectively report these things back to you so that you can then make a decision. Then obviously the next logical course of action or choice for their audience is to buy whatever it is they're doing, whatever product or service it may be. But that's the reporter. And this is where most people would fall into that reporter or evangelist area. They could also be in the adventurer or the crusader. Now, fourth and lastly, the reluctant hero. Now, this is the humble hero who's typically shy. They don't want to be the center of attention. They don't want to be in the limelight. But they've been through the process. They have achieved the results, and they know the secrets and the tricks that are so important. They know their followers need them, so they have to overcome their own personal shortcomings, their shyness, and they have to share this important information reluctantly with their followers. It's not that they're reluctant to share the information. They're just reluctant to come out of their introverted shells to share that information. Now, if you have achieved, you have made it in your industry or market, I really suggest that you do the reluctant hero. I have watched a number of people try to be leaders, but leaders, there really is reserved for the very few. Tony Robbins is a leader because he has achieved it. Oprah Winfrey, she's a leader. She's achieved it. But when we try to assume the character of a leader and we haven't really made it, we haven't done it, it comes across very insincere and disingenuous. So for most people, I highly recommend you stay away from the leader character and you stick with either the adventurer, the reporter, or the reluctant hero. And if you have made it, then definitely the reluctant hero is the better way to come across. People would much rather sit down with a humble hero who wants to help them overcome their problems, as opposed to a leader who wants to talk about how they themselves have done everything and you should follow and mimic them. So that's my word of warning on choosing your different character, choosing it wisely. Now, I try to go back and forth in my own personal. I try to go between the crusader and the reporter. Yes, I have achieved significant results in my business life, and I sold tens of millions of dollars of medical devices. But I just find that when I'm dealing with other businesses and other businessmen, being a crusader, trying to right a wrong, and just going back and reporting and being sincere, honest, forthward, that works so much better than trying to be the leader. So here is your homework assignment. I want you to go through, and I want you to look and start developing your attractive character. Which persona are you going to assume when you address your audience, when you're creating content and when you're talking to your audience? How are you going to come across? Are you going to be that leader? Are you going to be the adventurer? Are you going to be the reporter? Are you the reluctant hero? Then ask yourself, what's your backstory? What parables or stories from your life can you share and relate them to business experiences? What analogies can you find? What metaphors are there? Decide on your character flaws. It's okay to show sincerity and vulnerability in it. Also decide, on that polarity. What are you going to stand for? What is it that your personal brand, how are you different? How are you going to draw a line in the sand? Decide on those things and start developing it. And then look at your storylines. What storylines can you use? Can you use loss and redemption, us versus them? If you're going the crusader route, us versus them is a really great way to do it. If you're a reporter, then look at before and after. If you're the reluctant hero, the loss and redemption storyline is a great option for you. The third person testimonials work for all of them. So anyway, go through, look at those things. What type of attractive character are you going to be? And thank you for listening to this episode of Freaky Smart Marketing. We will catch you on the other side. Thank you so much for listening to Freaky Smart Marketing today. For all the show notes and resources mentioned in this episode, go to freakysmartmarketing.com/podcast to see the latest episodes. Also, please leave us your feedback on what I can do better. Do you have questions about marketing or sales? Send me your questions and I'll answer them on the show. Hey, we'll see you next episode. Have a great week, my friends.